Hey everybody, Kate here. Sorry I am all over the place with times today. I was going to do noon Eastern and then got to take the dog out, million errands to run. I have a call, I had to teach, I had to sub last minute. So a lot of things going on. I apologize. I'm sure you guys get it. You've all been there. So we're going to hit on a few topics today. If you have additional questions, always ask them in the comments. I'll get back to them. If you're watching the replay, I'll make sure I go back and check, so don't worry. We have 3 questions, I think, today. A couple of them were in the group, and one of them was in a direct message, so I'll hit all of those. And if you guys ever don't feel comfortable asking your questions in the group, feel free to message. I'll get back to you, and I'll talk about them in here. Anyways, Hoerner Happy Hour, let's get started. So our first question was about cueing pedal stroke from Kayleen. So, and I apologize if I'm saying that wrong, Kayleen, let me know. She was saying that she has some people in class who are struggling with dorsiflexion, which means your toes are basically pointed down. There's a lot of different, plantar flexion is up, not that up, like that. So a lot of people have issues with this, with where their foot is while they're pedaling. And Kayleen was saying it's tough because it has nothing to do with their bike setup. Their bike setup might be perfect and they're still struggling with this. It really is something we need to coach throughout class, the cueing of the actual pedal stroke. I've actually found that although when you're pedaling, your heel should be slightly raised, right? Obviously, a lot of people have the problem of pointing their toes up or pointing their toes really far down. We want about a 20-degree angle around most of the pedal stroke. When we're coming around the front, it's a little bit less. So I'm trying to show you with my hand. That's obviously not working. When you are in front of a class, though, that's a great way to show it. Use your hand. Your hand's the foot, your arm's the leg or whatever, and give them an actual visual demonstration of what it should look like, or have them watch your pedal stroke when they're off the bike before or after class so they can understand it, because a lot of people are just visual, and hearing the cues, it's not enough for them. They have to actually see it and practice it in front of you until they get it. So I would take those people that are having a lot of trouble and show them, look, this is what it should look like. Show them on your bike, and then show them individually, have them hop on it and try and do it themselves. Once they get the feel for how it's supposed to be, it should be a little bit easier. Now, another thing I will say is a big culprit of, this problem of, poor pedal stroke is the improper footwear. So if those people who are struggling are not wearing cycling shoes, they're wearing sneakers, that might be why. So I would also suggest that, because when people are in sneakers, first of all, your foot's moving around. It's easy for your foot to bend over the pedals. You don't get the stability that you need to find the right pedal stroke. So if you can get them into, hopefully you guys offer them at your clubs, even if it's for pay. If not, maybe suggest that they purchase some if they're a regular rider. That can make a big difference. So show them with your hand, show them on and off the bike, describe it throughout class, which I'm sure you're already doing. Try and get some visual stuff. I know the scraping gum off the shoe is a big one that tends to get people to get a little bit better at it, but it really is a process, finding the right pedal stroke. It's a technique. It's one of the things we talk about in the Cycle Poet method as an option for one of your focuses for your class. If you guys are in that with me, you know what I'm talking about. If not, that's actually going to lead into the second thing here, because I asked a poll in here how long you guys spend on your class profiles. And I would say, so we had someone say 10 minutes. A couple people said 10, 20 minutes, not many. Some of you said 2 to 4 hours for one class profile. The average seemed to be about 1 to 2, we'll say, which makes sense if you're new, right? It takes a while to get used to it. But if you're a few months in and you're still spending that long on your profiles, we got to figure something out here. I won't say that there's a right, quote, right time, but it should absolutely be taking you less than an hour if you've got this down to a science. If you don't, that's what the Cycle Poet method is. If you haven't gotten it yet, the DIY method, which is way cheaper, is coming up August 1st. It's released. I've already had a few people buy. You'll get it for a discount if you buy now. I put the link in there. in the caption of this video. Check it out. It might be what you need to just help you get a little bit more systematic and sustainable with this process of class profile creation. So check it out. It shouldn't take you over an hour. It really shouldn't, especially if you're repurposing as you should be. And I talk about that a lot in the PsychoPoet method. So check that out if that's something you struggle with, and it seems like a lot of you are. So make sure you read those details. I'm not going to go into all of it now. As we get closer to August 1st, I might give you a little bit more details on it, but you can go read it on the website. You can ask me questions, but we'll get more into that later. I just want to remind you, if you are interested, the discount time is now. The next question we got, I'm not going to answer it here because Donna asked a great question about games that she could incorporate in her classes. She gave a few examples of playing tag and asked what other people are doing. And that is a perfect example of how to leverage this group, right? I could answer that here. I don't use games that often, just little things that I do now and again. But I'm sure there's a lot of people in here that do. And you guys are so unique and creative. I want you all to share that with each other. So I asked Donna's question for her. I posed it to the group. I think there's already a bunch of answers. Donna, if you're seeing this, go back into the group and check it out. I tagged you in it, so you should see all those comments. People have been giving you some great feedback, and that's what the crewbies are for, guys. Use each other. That's awesome. I love it. I love seeing it. So I'm not going to even bother because all the other answers are probably way better than what I would suggest. Oh, and the last question I got, this was a message. I'll rephrase that, but basically someone was asking me what I put in my notes. So we've talked a few times in here about whether or not we should use notes while we teach. You guys know my opinion on that. If you don't, search in the videos or in the search bar of this group, just search using notes or notes. It'll come up. It's a video. We've done it in Hoerner Happy Hour actually a couple times now. But what do they actually look like? What do you put in them? When I first started teaching, way back when, I actually put so much detail in my notes that I couldn't even read it because, first of all, it was so small, but it was also like so overwhelming when I was up there. I didn't need all of that. I knew what I was doing. I knew the general layout of my class. I just needed a few things to look at, right? A few things to remind myself of. So personally, now this is going to vary from person to person depending on what you need reminders of. Personally, I use just a few things. So I don't write any cues. I've gotten my cueing down pretty well. I don't need any sort of triggers. Occasionally I'll write a quote or something like that if there's something in particular that I want to say to my class. But I don't write cues. The only things I really write down are RPMs for a song, and caveat here, you can always figure out the RPMs of the song. Once it starts playing, if you guys teach the beat, you know, if you start pedaling and you have a screen in front of you, that's the RPM, the BPM, whatever, you find it right there. I like to write it because I like to set my class up with that number before the beat even starts to drop. And sometimes it's hard to remember and hard to find it myself if it's the first 2 seconds of the song and I'm trying to say it. I like having it there. Now, most of the time, again, I don't even look at these notes, but having it there, if I lose myself, it helps me. The only other thing I put on those notes is the timestamp of anything in particular that I'm trying to do. So if it's a certain move I'm trying to do, I'm getting in and out of the saddle, I want to hit, when the chorus strikes, or I want to hit when the beat drops, because those are the powerful moments, right? We want to take advantage of those. If there's a specific timestamp that I want to do that at, I'll write it down just so I know I'm getting close to it. Usually I can hear it, but sometimes there's multiple drops, or maybe there's a beat drop and then silence for a second and then it hits or something like that. So knowing the general timestamp of those things will help you guide your class to that point. So I'll show you. I was writing a couple notes. This isn't what I don't use a full notepad, but these are just some examples. I wrote the song, next to it I wrote the RPMs, and then I wrote couple timestamps, and I don't even use those. Honestly, again, I don't really use the notes anymore. It's more of just in case, let's say the music goes out in the middle of class and I get super flustered and I kind of lose myself and I have to get myself back into the routine. I have this as backup to get me back into it. I have a safety net. Or if something happens, someone gets hurt in class, God forbid, Never happened to me yet. Hope it doesn't. Or something distracts me. Then I know I can find my place really quickly because I have it all right here. Not that I couldn't without these notes, but just having it there is a little bit of a comfort. And I think you'll feel that way too. I do occasionally use the RPMs, like I said, if the song hasn't really gotten started yet and I want people to start to find that beat. But other than that, I don't really use notes too much. If you're going to put some cues down there, I would put 1 or 2 words that will remind you of what you wanted to say. I wouldn't write full sentences out because then you're going to be sitting there looking down, trying to read your notes in the middle of class, and people notice that. They want you to be in it with them. So just keep that in mind too. It's better to have less and give more than to have a fully laid out second by second plan that you can't stick to because it's too much. It's too overwhelming. So that's what I do. Again, it's going to vary person to person, but hopefully that gives you an idea of what would be helpful for you. And I would love to hear actually if you guys want to comment and let me know what your notes look like. I'm sure people would like to have a discussion around that. Christina said, what helps me is I know the song to a T and I teach exactly to the song. I don't use notes. I just use music. It's the easiest way. I 100% agree with that. Christina, I think it was either in the last Hoerner Happy Hour or the one before that, I made the point, or maybe it was in the Cycle Poet Method. Might have been in the Cycle Poet Method. I was talking about music and knowing your music and how important that is. If you're just picking and choosing songs right before you get up on that podium, you're going to be in trouble. You got to know your music. You have to know when the chorus is. You have to know when the hits are. You have to know when the beat drops. You have to know those things, especially if you're teaching to the rhythm of the music, because otherwise you're going to be scrambling while you're up there. And it's going to be very uncomfortable if, the chorus starts and you weren't ready and you wanted to do something at that moment. And then you have to kind of back into it a little bit. So knowing those songs and knowing all your music before you get on there, and just listen to it. When you're in the car, just play your playlist for your class that's later that day or whatever it is. It's easy enough to just play music in the background to get yourself used to it. So I highly recommend that. Great point, Christina. You can hear what you have to do if you know it's coming. Totally agree. Totally agree. That's a great point. So there it is, guys. Lots of good tips in this one. Hopefully you found it helpful. I think that's all we had for questions for this week. You guys have been relatively quiet. I know it's a holiday, it's summer, everything's kind of going on this week. So we'll get back at it next week. If you have any questions that I missed, please tag me in them in the group. I don't see every single post. I wish I did. Facebook kind of pushes things where it wants to. So if I don't see your post, just tag me and I'll hop back in here and check it out. Otherwise, I will be back here Thursday, and I'll plan on noon. I'm going to aim for noon from now on because it's a better time across time zones than 5 p.m. So we're going to aim for noon on Thursdays, noon Eastern. Let me clarify, noon Eastern time on Thursdays. I'm going to have to adjust every once in a while. Hopefully you guys are okay with that, but there's always going to be a recording, so just remember that. You got to fall in love with your playlist for sure. Yes, you do, Amy. You have to love your music. If you don't, you're not going to have fun, and that shows with your class. So first and foremost, you guys got to be energetic and excited about your music so that your class can be. Anyways, I'll stop rambling. Love you guys. I'll see you soon. Have a great day.